Captain Oh Sung-hwan had spent most of his life exploring the dark spaces between stars. The deep space exploration vessel Horizon's Edge was his home, and the unknown was his favorite destination. When Admiral Minho ordered him to trace the mysterious vessel's path backward through space, he accepted the mission eagerly. "Engineering, give me everything this ship has," he called over the intercom. "We're going deep." Engineer Nam Junho's voice crackled back. "Captain, following that thing's trail is going to push our engines past safe limits. The quantum signatures we're tracking don't follow normal physics." "How long until the engines give out?" Sung-hwan asked. "Maybe 2 weeks if we're lucky, 1 week if we're not." Sung-hwan looked at the countdown timer on his display. Humanity had 68 hours left. "Push them anyway. If we don't figure this out, engine failure won't matter." Dr. Bae Soo-jin sat at the science station, studying readings that made no sense. She had spent her career looking for non-carbon-based life forms, but the data coming from their sensors was unlike anything she had ever imagined. "Captain, I'm getting strange readings from the first system on the backtrail," she reported. "The Vega system shows signs of advanced civilization, but what?" Soo-jin hesitated before answering. "But there's no electromagnetic activity at all. No radio signals, no energy signatures, nothing that suggests active technology. It's like finding a city with all the buildings intact but no people." The Horizon's Edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vega system. What they found there made the entire crew fall silent. Vega 4 was obviously an inhabited world. They could see massive cities covering entire continents, space elevators reaching into orbit, and artificial structures that spanned between moons. But as Soo-jin had reported, there were no signs of active life anywhere. "Take us in closer," Sung-hwan ordered. As they approached the planet, more details became clear. The cities were not just empty. They were perfect. No damage, no decay, no signs of any kind of disaster. Streets, buildings, and vehicles all looked as if their owners had simply vanished moments before. "I'm detecting artificial gravity systems, environmental controls, even transportation networks," Soo-jin reported. "Everything is working perfectly, but there are no life signs anywhere on the planet." Nam Jun-ho ran deep scans from the engineering station. "Captain, the quantum signatures here match what we detected from the mysterious vessel. Whatever happened to this civilization, it's connected to our visitors. They found the same pattern in system after system along the backtrail. Advanced civilizations with all their technology intact, but not a single living being to be found. It was as if entire species had been carefully removed from existence without disturbing anything else." "How many civilizations are we talking about?" Sung-hwan asked as they jumped to the 7th empty system. Soo-jin checked her count. "So far, 12 different species across 18 star systems, all at different levels of technological development, but all showing the same pattern. Perfect preservation with total absence of life. At the 10th system, they found something different." "Captain, I'm detecting an active signal source on the 3rd planet," Soo-jin announced. "It's weak, but definitely artificial." "What kind of signal?" "Unknown format. It's not like anything in our databases." Sung-hwan made the decision to investigate personally. "Prep a shuttle, I want to see this for myself." "Sir, we don't know if it's safe," Nam Jun-ho protested. "We're running out of time to be safe. If there's something down there that can tell us what we're dealing with, we need to find it." The planet's surface was covered in ruins that looked like they had been abandoned for thousands of years. But hidden in a deep cavern, they found something that was still active, an ancient beacon, clearly alien in design but somehow familiar in purpose. "It's a warning system," Soo-jin realized, as they approached the device. "Look at the symbols. They're mathematical concepts that any intelligent species would recognize." Sung-hwan studied the beacon carefully. "Can we activate it safely?" "I think so. The power source is stable and it seems designed to respond to outside contact." When they activated the beacon, the response was immediate and terrifying. A 3-dimensional image appeared in the air above the device, showing a being that looked nothing like any species they had encountered. It spoke in a language they couldn't, understand, but somehow the meaning became clear in their minds. "The collectors have found you," the alien's message began. "We do not have long to give this warning. They do not destroy civilizations. They harvest them. They take not your lives, but your existence itself." The image flickered, showing scenes of the alien civilization in its final days. Advanced beings working desperately on some kind of project while darkness gathered around them. We tried to fight them with weapons. Useless. We tried to hide from them in deep space. They found us anyway. We tried to negotiate. They do not communicate in ways we understand. The message continued, explaining what the collectors did to the species they found. They preserve consciousness, but remove it from physical reality. We exist now, but we can never again cast shadows in the universe. We are aware. We can think and feel and remember, but we cannot touch or change or build anything new. Su Jin grabbed Sung Hwan's arm. "Captain, they're describing exactly what we saw in the alien transmission. The empty-eyed faces, the voices, that sounded like echoes from far away." The beacon's message wasn't finished. The alien figure continued speaking, its words becoming more urgent. "But there is hope. We have learned things during our preservation. The collectors are not evil. They are desperate. They preserve other species because they themselves are dying, and preservation is the only form of existence they understand. We have been working together across impossible spans of time. Species that were collected centuries apart, combining our knowledge while existing as pure consciousness. We have found a way to reverse the collection process, but it requires something we no longer possess. A civilization that still exists in physical reality, a species still anchored to normal space-time. You may be our last chance." The image showed complex technical diagrams that made Nam Junho's eyes widen. "Captain, these are quantum field equations. They're showing us how to disrupt the superposition state that allows the collectors to exist between realities." But the message had one final, crucial piece of information. The restoration process requires enormous energy, and someone willing to serve as a bridge between realities. One member of your species must voluntarily enter quantum superposition, become fully collected, while maintaining connection to physical reality. It is essentially a suicide mission, but it may be the only way to free not just your species, but all the consciousness that have been preserved. The beacon's power flickered and died, leaving them in darkness. Back on the horizon's edge, Seung Hwan transmitted their findings to Earth while Su Jin and Nam Junho worked to understand the alien technology they had discovered. "The equations are incredibly complex," Nam Junho reported, "but I think I understand the basic principle. The collectors exist in quantum superposition because their original universe is collapsing. They preserve other species as a desperate attempt to maintain some form of existence." Su Jin added her analysis. "The preserved consciousnesses aren't trapped. They're refugees. The collectors think they're saving us from the fate that destroyed their own reality." "But the result is the same," Seung Hwan pointed out. "Entire civilizations reduced to ghosts." Admiral Minho's response came through their communication system. "Captain, we're receiving new signals from the alien vessel. It's broadcasting coordinates to the Galactic Center and seems to be preparing for some kind of journey. Are they leaving?" Seung Hwan asked hopefully. "Negative. Analysis suggests they want us to follow them. The countdown timer is still active, but now it includes travel time to the galactic core." Su Jin studied the data streaming in from Earth. "Captain, I think they're giving us a choice. We can submit to collection here, or we can follow them to see their full operation firsthand." "Why would they want us to see their base of operations?" "Maybe because they're not actually hostile. Think about it. If they wanted to simply collect us by force, they could have done it already. Instead, they're giving us information, showing us what will happen, even providing us with time to prepare." Nam Junho looked up from his engineering calculations. "The beacon's equations might work, but we'd need to get close to the collector's main facility. The quantum field disruption has to be generated from inside their collection matrix." Seung Hwan made a decision that would affect all of humanity's future. "Set course for the Galactic Center. We're going to follow them." "Sir, that's a journey. Of several days, even with our best engines, Nam Junho protested. Then we better hope the collectors are patient. As the horizon's edge began its desperate journey toward the galaxy's core, Xionghuan couldn't shake the feeling that they were flying into a trap. But the alternative, waiting helplessly while humanity was collected, seemed worse. The beacon's message had offered hope, but at a terrible price. Someone would have to volunteer to become like the mysterious vessel itself, existing in quantum superposition between realities, conscious but no longer truly alive. Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Victory, leading the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. 300 ships from across human space were following the mysterious vessel toward the galactic center, not knowing if they were flying to battle or to their doom. Commander Li Hyunwoo had transferred from Monitor Station Omega-7 to join the fleet. For the past 2 days, he had been experiencing strange dreams, visions of vast spaces filled with countless voices speaking in languages he had never heard. The dreams were becoming more vivid as they approached their destination. Admiral, we're receiving telemetry from Captain O's exploration vessel, reported Communications Officer Kim. They've reached the galactic center ahead of us. Put them on screen. Captain Xionghuan's face appeared on the main display, but something was wrong. His eyes looked distant, unfocused, as if he was seeing things that weren't there. Admiral, you need to prepare yourself for what we've found here, Xionghuan said, his voice strangely calm. The galactic center isn't a black hole, it's something else entirely. The transmission switched to external cameras from the horizon's edge. What they saw defied all understanding. Where there should have been a massive black hole, instead there was a structure so vast it made planets look like pebbles. It was clearly artificial, but built from materials that seemed to shift between solid matter and pure energy. The mysterious vessel they had been following was approaching what appeared to be a docking bay, large enough to hold entire star systems. Dear God, Dr. Lim So-young whispered from her science station. How is something that large even possible? It's not just large, Xionghuan's voice came through the speakers. It's existing in multiple dimensions at once. Our sensors show it extending into space-time configurations that shouldn't exist. Captain Kim De-hee spoke up from her command ship. Captain Oh, what's the status of your crew? There was a long pause before Sung Hwan answered. We're changing. Dr. Bei and Engineer Nam are experiencing the same thing I am. We can sense other consciousness around us. Thousands of them, maybe millions. Hyunwoo felt a chill run through him. His own dreams were becoming clearer, filled with voices trying to communicate with him across impossible distances. We're being partially collected, Seung-hwan continued, but slowly, carefully. They want us to understand what we're seeing before we make our final choice. Admiral Minho gripped the arms of his command chair. What choice? The answer came not from Seung-hwan, but from the mysterious vessel itself. For the first time since it had appeared, it spoke in clear human language. We offer preservation to your species, the voice said. It sounded like thousands of beings speaking in perfect harmony. Your physical existence is temporary and fragile. We can give you consciousness that lasts forever. At what cost? Minho demanded. The cost is existence as you understand it. You will think, feel, and remember, but you will no longer be able to affect the physical universe. This is the choice we have offered to every species we have encountered. Dr. So-young leaned forward in her chair. Why? Why do you do this? The response came with images transmitted directly into their minds. Visions of a universe much older than their own, filled with beings of incredible advancement who watched, helplessly as reality itself began to collapse around them. We are the last survivors of a previous universe, the collectors explained. When our reality ended, we found a way to preserve our consciousness by existing in quantum superposition between dimensions. We have been alone for eons beyond counting. So you collect other species to keep you company? Captain Da-hee asked, anger clear in her voice. We collect other species to save them from the fate that destroyed our universe. Physical reality is temporary. Consciousness is eternal. We offer immortality. Commander Hyun-woo suddenly understood something that made his blood run cold. You're not from our universe at all, are you? You're refugees from a dead reality, and you're trying to save us from suffering the same fate. Correct. Your universe, like ours, will eventually collapse. When it does, only consciousness preserved in quantum superposition will survive. We offer you this gift while there is still time. Admiral Minho looked around at his officers, seeing the same thought in all their faces. The collectors believed they were helping humanity, but their help would mean the end of human civilization as they knew it. What if we refuse? He asked. Then you will face the same fate as our species. When this universe ends, you will end with it. We have seen reality collapse before. We know what comes next. Dr. Bai Su-jin's voice came through from the horizon's edge, but she sounded different now, as if speaking from a great distance. Admiral, I can sense the other preserved species. They're trying to tell us something important. What are they saying? They've found a way to reverse the preservation process, not just for humanity, but for all the species that have been collected. But it requires someone to voluntarily undergo full quantum translation while maintaining a connection to physical reality. The collector's response was immediate and filled with something that sounded like fear. That is impossible. Once consciousness enters full superposition, it cannot return to physical form. The process destroys the quantum bridge between realities. But Engineer Nam Junho, his voice now echoing with the same distant quality as his crewmates, spoke up. The preserved species have been working on this for thousands of years. They've found a way to create a stable quantum bridge, but it requires enormous energy and a willing volunteer. The energy source would have to be the controlled collapse of this facility, Dr. Bay added. It would either restore everyone to physical existence or destroy us all completely. Hyun-woo felt the voices in his dreams growing stronger, more urgent. Among them, he could hear something that sounded like hope. The first hope these preserved consciousness had experienced in millennia. Admiral, he said, his own voice beginning to carry that distant echo. I volunteer. Absolutely not, Minho replied immediately. Sir, I'm already partially translated. I can feel myself existing in both realities simultaneously. If anyone can maintain the quantum bridge, it's someone who's already experienced the transition. Captain Dahi's voice cut through the debate. We have incoming ships, multiple vessels approaching from all directions. The fleet's sensors lit up with new contacts. Hundreds of ships appearing from quantum superposition, all identical to the mysterious vessel that had started this entire crisis. Do not be alarmed, the collectors announced. These are the preservation ships of other species. They have come to witness your choice. Other species? So Young asked. Species that chose preservation before you. Their consciousness exists within our collection matrix, but they retain the ability to operate vessels from their original civilizations. The implications hit everyone at once. The mysterious vessel that had appeared at Monitor Station Omega-7 wasn't operated by the collectors at all. It was crewed by the preserved consciousness of some long-dead species, still serving the beings that had collected them. How many civilizations are represented in your collection? Minho asked quietly. Across multiple universes and dimensions of reality, we have preserved over 4 million distinct species and approximately 60 billion individual consciousness. The number was so large it was almost meaningless. Every ship surrounding the human fleet represented an entire civilization that had faced the same choice humanity now confronted. Admiral, Hyun-woo said, his voice now clearly coming from that strange space between realities. The preserved species are showing me the restoration process. It can work, but the timing has to be perfect. What do you need from us? The quantum field disruption has to be triggered from inside the collection matrix. I need to complete my translation first, then use my connection to physical reality to channel the restoration energy back through the quantum bridge. Dr. So-young ran calculations on her instruments. The energy release would be enormous. It would either restore every preserved consciousness to physical form across the galaxy, or it would destroy the quantum foundation that allows consciousness to exist in superposition. Meaning what exactly? Meaning if we're wrong, we'll be killing 60 billion preserved minds along with ourselves. The weight of that possibility settled over the fleet like a shroud. They weren't just gambling with human survival. They were risking the existence of every species the collectors had ever encountered. Captain Xiong Huan's voice came through one final time, now sounding completely ethereal. Admiral, the choice has to be made now. The translation process is accelerating for all of us. In a few hours, we'll be fully collected whether we choose it or not. Minho looked at his tactical display, showing the human fleet surrounded by hundreds of vessels crewed by the consciousness of dead civilizations. Behind them lay humanity's future, either as preserved minds in an alien collection, or as the species that found a way to restore freedom to an entire galaxy. All ships prepare for quantum field disruption, he ordered. We're going to try to bring everyone home. Sir, Captain Dahi called out, if this doesn't work, Captain, then at least we'll have tried to save more than just ourselves. Commander Lee Hyunwoo stared at his screen and rubbed his tired eyes. 20 years of watching the dark spaces between stars had taught him to notice every small detail. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago, but he barely noticed. Something was wrong with the sensor readings. Wu Jin, come look at this, he called to the young technician across the control room. Choi Wu Jin rolled his chair over to Hyunwoo's station. His young face showed the kind of energy that only came from working the night shift for less than a year. What is it, Commander? Hyunwoo pointed at a section of his display. Look at Sector 77 Alpha. Do you see that? Wu Jin squinted at the screen. The display showed the usual pattern of stars, planets, and empty space. Everything looked normal to him. I don't see anything unusual, sir. Exactly. Hyunwoo's voice was quiet. There's nothing there, but look at the sensor logs from 6 hours ago. He pulled up the earlier data. Wu Jin compared the two images side by side. In the older image, there was a small dot of reflected starlight where now there was only empty space. Could be a sensor error, Wu Jin suggested. The equipment is old. Hyunwoo shook his head. I've been doing this job since before you were born, kid. Sensors don't just miss objects that big, and they don't create perfect spheres of nothing. Monitor Station Omega-7 hung in orbit around Kepler 442b, one of humanity's newer colonies. The station's job was simple. Watch for incoming ships and give early warning if anything dangerous approached. In the 20 years since Hyunwoo had been stationed here, they had never missed a single vessel. Not one. Dr. Park Ji-yoon walked into the control room carrying a steaming cup of tea. She was the station's expert on alien cultures, though they had never found any aliens to study. Her job mostly involved analyzing strange signals from deep space and writing reports that nobody ever read. You two look worried, she said, settling into a chair near the main display. We might have a problem, Hyunwoo said. He explained about the missing object and the strange sensor readings. Ji-eun listened carefully, then asked to see the data herself. She was quiet for several minutes as she studied the information. This is interesting, she finally said. Whatever was there, it was big. Maybe the size of a small moon, but now our sensors say there's nothing in that location at all. Could something that large just disappear? Wu Jin asked. Not according to any physics I know, Ji-eun replied. Mass doesn't just vanish. Even if something exploded, we would see debris and energy signatures. Hyunwoo was about to respond when every alarm on the station began screaming at once. Red lights flashed across all the control panels. The main display lit up with warning messages. What's happening? Ji-eun shouted over the noise. Woo Jin's fingers flew across his keyboard trying to understand the flood of data. I'm getting readings from the visual sensors. Something big just appeared in our detection grid. Appeared from where? Hyunwoo demanded. That's just it, sir. It didn't come from anywhere. It's just there. The main display switched to a visual image of space. Against the star field, they could see a shape that made no sense. It was clearly artificial, but unlike any ship design they had ever seen. The vessel was smooth and dark with no visible engines, weapons, or communication arrays. It looked more like a piece of living shadow than a machine. How big is it? Ji-eun asked. Woo Jin checked his instruments. Computer says it's about 800 meters long, but the mass readings are impossible. What do you mean? According to our sensors, it has no mass at all. Zero. It's like looking at a ghost. Hyunwoo activated the station's communication system. Unidentified vessel, this is Terran Monitor Station Omega 7. Please identify yourself and state your purpose in this system. They waited. No response came. Try again, Ji-eun suggested. Use different frequencies. Hyunwoo broadcast the message on every channel they had. Radio waves, laser communication, even old-fashioned light signals. The mysterious ship remained silent. I'm calling this in, Hyunwoo decided. He opened a priority channel to the nearest patrol fleet. Captain Kim, this is Monitor Station Omega 7. We have an unidentified vessel in our sector. Unknown design, unknown origin. Captain Kim Da-hee's voice crackled through the speakers. She commanded the patrol cruiser Indomitable Spirit and 3 smaller escort ships.
Copy that, Omega 7. We're 2 hours out. Can you get any more information about the vessel? Negative. It's not responding to communication attempts. And, Captain, our sensors are showing some very strange readings. Strange how? Hyunwoo looked
at Ji-eun, who nodded for him to continue. The vessel appears to have no mass, no energy signature, and no identifiable propulsion system, but we can see it clearly on visual sensors. There was a long pause before Da-hee responded. Say again, Omega 7? The ship is invisible to all our detection systems, except visual cameras. That's impossible. Yes, ma'am. That's what we thought, too. While they waited for the patrol fleet to arrive, Ji-eun tried every analysis tool the station had. She ran spectral analysis on the ship's hull, looking for clues about what it was made of. The results made no sense. The material seems to be changing, she told the others. One moment it looks like metal, the next like some kind of crystal. Sometimes it appears to be made of pure energy. Could it be some kind of hologram? Woo Jin suggested. Holograms don't block starlight, Ji-eun replied. Look at the shadow it's casting on that asteroid. They watched the mysterious vessel for nearly 2 hours. It made no movement, sent no signals, and gave no indication that it even knew they were watching. It simply hung in space like a dark question mark against the stars. When Captain Da-hee's patrol fleet finally arrived, Hyunwoo felt a moment of relief. The Indomitable Spirit was one of humanity's most advanced warships, equipped with weapons and sensors that could handle almost any threat. Omega 7, we have visual contact with the unidentified vessel. Da-hee's voice came through the radio. You're right. It doesn't match any known design. I'm going to try hailing it myself. They listened as Da-hee broadcast the standard first contact message in 12 different languages, including the mathematical sequences that scientists believed any intelligent species would understand. The response came not as words, but as action. The mysterious vessel began to move. It didn't accelerate gradually like a normal ship. One moment it was motionless, the next it was traveling at incredible speed toward the inner system. No flames shot from engines because there were no visible engines. No energy readings spiked because their instruments still couldn't detect any energy at all. Captain, it's heading for the colony planet, Woo Jin reported, his voice tight with worry. I see it, Da-hee replied. Indomitable Spirit to unidentified vessel. Change course immediately, or we will be forced to take defensive action. The dark ship continued on its path without any sign that it had heard the warning. All ships move to intercept, Da-hee ordered. Prepare to fire warning shots across its bow. Hyunwoo watched the tactical display as the patrol fleet moved to block the mysterious vessel's path. The human ships looked small and fragile compared to the alien craft. Firing warning shots now, Da-hee announced. Beams of coherent energy lanced out from the patrol ships designed to pass close to the alien vessel without hitting it. The energy beams should have been visible as bright lines of light. Instead, they simply vanished. Did you hit it? Hyunwoo asked. Negative. The beams passed right through it like it wasn't even there. Ji-eun stared at the display in amazement. It exists in the visual spectrum, but not in any other form of detection. It casts shadows, but energy passes through it. What kind of technology could do that? The kind we've never seen before, Hyunwoo replied grimly. The patrol fleet tried everything they could think of. They fired more warning shots, attempted to physically block the vessel's path, and even tried ramming maneuvers. Nothing worked. The mysterious ship continued toward Kepler 442b, as if the human fleet didn't exist. As they watched helplessly, the alien vessel reached the planet's orbit and took up a position on the far side from the colony. For a moment, Hyunwoo hoped it would just pass by and continue into deep space. Then every communication system on the station activated at once. The signal came on every frequency simultaneously: radio, laser, quantum entanglement, even formats that humanity hadn't invented yet. But it wasn't random noise. As the computers analyzed the data, a picture began to form on their screens. It was a star chart, but not just any star chart. This one showed every human colony in perfect detail: population numbers, defense positions, industrial capacity, military strength, information that should have been impossible for any alien species to possess. How do they know all this? Woojin whispered. Jiun's face had gone pale. They've been watching us, studying us. For how long I don't know, but they know everything about human civilization. Hyunwoo looked at the data scrolling across his screens. Ship positions, troop movements, weapon specifications. It was like looking at humanity's complete military database from an outside perspective. "Captain," he called to Dahi, "are you seeing this transmission? Copy that, Omega 7. I'm sending this data to Fleet Command immediately. This changes everything." The mysterious vessel had positioned itself in Earth's solar system, not around Kepler 442b as they had thought. But somehow it was simultaneously. Commander Lee Hyunwoo existed in a space that had no name in any human language. His consciousness floated in a vast network of minds from thousands of different species, all connected across dimensions that normal physics couldn't explain. He could feel his physical body somewhere far away, but it seemed like a distant memory. Around him, the voices of 60 billion preserved consciousness spoke in harmony, sharing knowledge and hope across eons of separation. Among them, he found, the collectors themselves. Not the mysterious force they had seemed, but beings as desperate and lonely as any species they had ever encountered. "We have waited so long for a species willing to attempt the restoration," one of the collector minds spoke to him directly. "We had begun to believe we would remain alone forever." Hyunwoo could sense the truth in their thoughts. The collectors hadn't been trying to trap other species. They had been trying to save them from the loneliness that had driven their own civilization to the edge of madness. "Your universe is not ending," another collector mind explained. "We were wrong about that. Our own universe collapsed because we had exhausted all physical resources in our pursuit of knowledge. We assumed the same fate awaited all realities. Then why continue collecting other species?" Hyunwoo asked, though communication here happened through direct thought rather than words. "Because we had forgotten how to exist in physical form. Preservation was the only existence we understood. But the other consciousness you have encountered have been working on a solution, a way to restore not just consciousness, but physical form as well." In the vast network of preserved minds, Hyunwoo could sense the incredible collaboration that had taken place over thousands of years. Species that had been enemies in life now worked together in preservation. Civilizations separated by millions of years of galactic history shared their knowledge freely. Dr. Bae Soo-jin's consciousness touched his across the quantum network. "Hyunwoo, can you maintain the connection to physical reality while we begin the restoration process?" He could feel the physical universe pulling at him like gravity, keeping part of his awareness anchored to normal space-time. It was painful, like being stretched between two different forms of existence, but it was working. "I can hold the bridge," he confirmed. "But we need to move quickly. I can feel the connection weakening." Outside the preservation matrix, Admiral Minho watched his instruments as readings spiked beyond anything they had ever recorded. The massive facility at the Galactic Center was beginning to resonate with energy that seemed to come from dimensions his sensors couldn't measure. "All ships move to minimum safe distance," he ordered. "Dr. Lim, are you getting readings on the quantum field disruption?" Dr. So-young's voice was tight with concentration as she monitored her instruments. "The energy buildup is following the pattern predicted by the alien equations. If this works, the restoration wave should propagate across the entire galaxy." Captain Kim Da-hee's voice came through from the indomitable spirit. Admiral, I'm detecting massive structural changes in the facility. It looks like it's collapsing and expanding at the same time. That's supposed to happen, So Young confirmed. The quantum matrix has to completely restructure itself to allow consciousness to return to physical form. Inside the preservation network, Hyunwoo felt the moment of critical decision approaching. Thousands of preserved species were channeling their combined knowledge through him, using his connection to physical reality to guide the restoration process. Now came the unified thought from 60 billion minds. The energy release was beyond anything the universe had experienced since the formation of galaxies. Space itself seemed to ripple as the quantum foundation of the preservation facility underwent complete transformation. For a terrifying moment, Hyunwoo felt his connection to both realities starting to collapse. He was losing his grip on physical existence while simultaneously being pulled deeper into quantum superposition. If the bridge failed now, everyone would be lost in the space between dimensions. But then he felt something unexpected, help from the collectors themselves. We remember now. Their combined consciousness spoke to him. We remember what it was like to have physical form, to cast shadows in the universe, to build and create and change things. Help us remember how to return. Using their ancient knowledge of quantum mechanics and his own stubborn refusal to let go of physical reality, Hyunwoo managed to stabilize the bridge between dimensions. The restoration energy began flowing in both directions, consciousness returning to physical form, but also bringing with it all the knowledge and wisdom gained during preservation. The first sign of success came from the facility itself. The massive structure began to solidify into normal matter as the collector's consciousness found physical form for the first time in eons. But these weren't the same beings who had first entered preservation. They had grown and evolved during their time as pure consciousness, becoming something greater than they had been before. Across the galaxy, similar transformations were taking place. On worlds that had been empty for thousands of years, the preserved consciousness of vanished civilizations began to materialize. But they didn't return exactly as they had been. They came back with all the knowledge and experience they had, gained while existing as pure consciousness. Captain Seung-hwan felt his awareness snapping back into his physical body aboard the horizon's edge. But he was no longer quite the same person who had begun this mission. His mind now contained fragments of knowledge from dozens of other species, and he could still sense the vast network of consciousness that connected all intelligent life in the galaxy. "Status report," he called out, his voice hoarse from the transition. Dr. Bae Soo-jin opened her eyes at her science station, looking dazed but alive. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from across the galaxy. The restoration process is working. Civilizations are rematerializing on their homeworlds." Engineer Nam Jun-ho checked his instruments with hands that shook slightly from the quantum transition. "The preservation facility is collapsing into normal space-time, but it's not being destroyed. It's becoming something else." What the facility was becoming quickly became clear. As its quantum matrix stabilized into normal matter, it transformed into a massive space station, still enormous, but now existing completely in physical reality. And it was inhabited by the collectors, returned to physical form after eons of existence as pure consciousness. Admiral Min-ho received reports from across the galaxy as human monitoring stations detected incredible activity on worlds that had been dead for millennia. Entire civilizations were rebuilding their societies, but with the combined knowledge of thousands of other species. "This is unprecedented," Dr. So-young reported from her analysis station. The restoration process didn't just return consciousness to physical bodies. It created a permanent quantum link between all intelligent species in the galaxy. We can all sense each other now. The truth of her words became clear as communication. Channels opened between human ships and vessels, from civilizations that had been preserved for thousands of years. But these weren't the same species that had originally been collected. They had evolved during their time in preservation, becoming more than they had been before. Commander Hyunwoo's restoration was the most difficult, since he had achieved the deepest quantum superposition. When his consciousness finally settled back into his physical body, he retained the ability to perceive both realities simultaneously. "Admiral," he called out, his voice carrying a strange quality that seemed to echo from vast distances. "I can still sense the network. All 60 billion consciousness are now connected across normal spacetime. We've created something entirely new." The implications became clear over the following hours as reports came in from across human space. Every human being now had access to a subtle connection with the Galactic Consciousness Network. They were still individuals, still uniquely human, but they were no longer alone in the universe. The collectors, now existing in physical form again, sent ambassadors to meet with the human fleet. When they materialized aboard the Eternal Victory, they appeared as beings of incredible beauty and complexity, part of their original species, but evolved beyond anything that had existed in normal spacetime. "We owe you a debt that can never be repaid," their spokesman said to Admiral Minho. "For eons we believed that preservation was the only form of meaningful existence. You have shown us that consciousness and physical reality can coexist and enhance each other." "What happens now?" Minho asked. "Now we begin the great work. Every species in the galaxy is connected through the consciousness network, but each retains their individual identity and culture. We can share knowledge instantly, prevent conflicts through understanding, and explore possibilities that no single species could achieve alone." The mysterious vessel that had first appeared at Monitor, Station Omega-7, underwent its own transformation. No longer a tool of preservation operated by trapped consciousness, it became an embassy ship, a symbol of cooperation between different forms of existence and different species. Captain Dahi was given command of the new Inter-Reality Defense Force, dedicated to protecting both physical civilizations and any consciousness that chose to exist in quantum states. Admiral Kang Minho stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's capital city, staring at screens filled with impossible information. Around him, the most important military leaders in human space argued in worried voices. None of them had ever seen anything like the data streaming in from Monitor Station Omega-7. "Sir, we have confirmation from 17 different sensor networks," reported Colonel Han Ye-jin. The vessel appeared simultaneously in Earth orbit and around Kepler 442b. That should be impossible. Minho had spent 40 years in military service, fighting pirates and settling colonial disputes. He had earned his reputation by never losing a single engagement. But this situation was unlike anything in his experience. "What's the status of our fleet deployment?" he asked. "We're pulling ships from every system," replied General Park Dong-hyun. "Within 12 hours, we'll have the largest battle fleet in human history assembled in Earth orbit. Over 300 vessels. Minho nodded, but he wasn't feeling confident. Numbers meant nothing if their weapons couldn't affect the target. Dr. Lim So-young entered the war room carrying a tablet full of data. She was one of Earth's leading quantum physicists, called in to analyze the mysterious vessel's properties. Her face showed the exhaustion of someone who had been working for 20 hours straight. "Admiral, I have some preliminary findings about the alien ship," she said. "Give me the summary, Doctor." Simple words. So-young set down her tablet and rubbed her eyes. "The vessel exists in what we call quantum superposition. It's simultaneously real and unreal until something observes it directly. That's why visual sensors can see it, but everything else passes right through." "Explain it like I'm 5 years old," Minho said. "Think of it like this. Imagine a coin that's spinning in the air. While it spins, it's both heads and tails at the same time. Only when it lands and you look at it does it become one or the other. This ship is like that spinning coin, except it never lands." General Park frowned. "How is that even possible?" "I don't know," So-young admitted. "Our best theories say it should be impossible for something that large to maintain quantum superposition, but somehow they're doing it." While the scientists and generals debated, Agent Yoon Tae-kyung was working on a different problem. As Earth's top intelligence analyst, his job was to understand the information the alien vessel had broadcast. What he found made his blood run cold. The data wasn't just military intelligence, Hidden in the transmission were detailed psychological profiles of human behavior, cultural analysis, and social patterns from every colony world. The aliens hadn't just been watching human military movements, they had been studying human minds. Tae-kyung rushed to the war room with his findings. "Admiral, we have a bigger problem than we thought," he announced as he burst through the doors. Min-ho looked up from a tactical display. "What now?" "The aliens aren't just collecting military data. They're mapping human psychology. They know how we think, how we react to stress, what makes us afraid. They've been analyzing our entertainment broadcasts, social media, even children's stories." "Why would they need that information?" So, Young asked. Tae-kyung's face was grim. "To predict our behavior, to know exactly how we'll respond to whatever they're planning." Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the command center. A communications officer called out from across the room. "Sir, the alien vessel is moving again. It just disappeared from Earth orbit." "Where did it go?" Min-ho demanded. "Proxima Centauri system, sir. It appeared in orbit around New Shanghai colony." Min-ho felt his stomach drop. New Shanghai was home to nearly 2 million people. If the aliens were hostile, "Get me a direct line to Colony Defense Command," he ordered. The next several hours were a nightmare of helpless observation. The mysterious vessel appeared around each human colony in turn, spending exactly the same amount of time at each location. It would arrive without warning, orbit the planet for 7 hours and 18 minutes, then vanish and reappear around the next world. Dr. Park Ji-eun, still monitoring from Station Omega 7, made the connection first. "Commander Lee," she called to Hyun-woo. "I've been timing the alien ship's visits to each colony. And 7 hours and 18 minutes is exactly how long it takes to complete a full electromagnetic spectrum scan of a planet. They're not just visiting these worlds, they're conducting detailed surveys." Hyun-woo relayed this information to Earth Command immediately. The implications were terrifying. The aliens weren't exploring. They were cataloging human civilization like specimens in a laboratory. Back on Earth, Dr. So-young made another disturbing discovery. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the quantum patterns in the vessel's hull composition," she reported. "The quantum field isn't natural. It's being generated by technology we can't even begin to understand." "What does that mean for our defense plans?" Min-ho asked. "It means our weapons are useless. Energy passes right through quantum superposition matter. Physical projectiles would do the same. We might as well be throwing rocks at a ghost." The fleet commanders were becoming increasingly frustrated. Captain Kim Da-hee reported in from the Indomitable Spirit with the same story they were hearing from every ship. Impossible to target, impossible to intercept, impossible to stop. "Sir, request permission to try a nuclear strike," Da-hee radioed. "Maybe if we detonate a warhead in its general vicinity." "Negative, Captain. We don't know what that might do to the quantum field. It could make things worse." As the mysterious vessel continued its systematic survey of human space, Agent Tae-kyung discovered something that changed everything. "Admiral, I need you to look at this immediately," he said, pulling up a new analysis on the main screen. The display showed communication patterns between human colonies over the past 6 months. Normally, interstellar messages followed predictable routes through communication relay stations. But Tae-kyung had found anomalies, tiny delays and alterations in data packets that suggested something had been intercepting and analyzing every message. "They've been inside our communication networks for months," he explained. "Maybe years. Every email, every video call, every data transfer between colonies has been copied and studied." Min-ho stared at the evidence in shocked silence. "How much do they know about us?" "Everything," Tae-kyung replied. "Our military codes, our personal relationships, our fears and hopes and dreams, they know us better than we know ourselves." The alien vessel completed its tour of human colonies and returned to Earth orbit. For the first time since it had appeared, it responded to human communication attempts. But the response was not what anyone expected. Every screen in the command center lit up with the same image, a perfect reproduction of Earth's surface as seen from orbit. But something was wrong with the picture. The cities were still there. The oceans and continents looked normal, but there were no lights. No signs of life or activity anywhere on the planet. Then the image changed. Now it showed New Shanghai colony, but again with no signs of human presence. Then Mars, then Europa Station, then every human world one by one. All empty, all lifeless. All perfectly preserved but devoid of the people who had built them. What are they trying to tell us? General Park asked in a whisper. Dr. Ji-Eun's voice came through the communication system from her monitoring station. I think they're showing us the future, what these worlds will look like after they're finished with us. But the planets look undamaged, So Young observed. No signs of destruction or warfare. That might be worse, Ji-Eun replied. If they're not planning to destroy us, what are they planning to do with us? The answer came in the form of another transmission. From the alien vessel. This time, it broadcast back humanity's own signals, but altered in a way that made everyone who saw it feel sick and wrong. Human faces appeared on screen, but their eyes were completely black. Not dark, but empty, as if the person was looking out from somewhere far away. Human voices spoke normal words, but underneath each voice was something else. Something vast and hungry that seemed to echo from impossible distances. Commander Lee Hyun-woo watched the transmission from his monitoring station and felt something cold settle in his stomach. The people in the broadcast looked alive, aware, conscious, but somehow not really there at the same time. It's like they're showing us echoes of people, he said to Ji-Eun. Or shadows, she replied. Shadows of human consciousness, existing somewhere else. The implications hit them both at the same time. They're not planning to kill us, Ji-Eun whispered. They're planning to take us, our consciousness, our minds, our souls, whatever makes us human. They want to preserve us, but not in our bodies. Admiral, Minho received this analysis with growing horror. An enemy that wanted to destroy humanity was bad enough, but an enemy that wanted to collect them, to preserve human consciousness in some alien storage system while leaving their worlds empty. Sir, Communications Officer Lee called out. We're receiving another transmission from the alien vessel. Put it on screen. This time the message was simpler. It showed star charts again, but not of human space. These charts showed the galaxy's spiral arms, with thousands of star systems marked in different colors. As they watched, a legend appeared, explaining the color coding. Red systems, civilizations preserved and catalogued. Blue systems, natural phenomena of scientific interest.